Yet another little outlook. Yesterday we took a look at hotel. Now we're going to take a look at CDEvents, which is very closely to Eiffel. Might be seen as a competitor also. And the idea with today's session is giving you kind of like an introduction. So if you want to dig in deeper, then you can do that. So we'll take a look at the organization around it, some history, the beginnings, and then some description a little bit how it works and how it differs to Eiffel community ecosystems. So CDEvents is hosted within the Continuous Delivery Foundation, and they claim that to is open source foundation improving the world's ability to deliver with software, purity, and speed. The CD Foundation is part of the Linux Foundation umbrella, and when it started, many of these projects were probably thought to be under CNCF, Cloud Native Computer Foundation, but they wanted to focus on cloud native issues, and continuous delivery would probably not be. You don't only have to use cloud native to do this delivery; you can do it purpose built also. So that's why they wanted another organization. So currently, they're not hosting many. You probably recognize Jenkins, Tecton, and there are a couple of other ones here. And then also you got CDEvents here. It's not a very big organization. Yeah, we can take a look at the history of CDEvents. In 2020, in January, there was a special interest group on interoperability that was founded. And from that one, in May, they started the work stream on events. And then in December the same year, there became another special interest groups, which then in December a year later, there was the CDEvents as an incubating product. Version 1 was in October 2022. And as far as I know, the latest specification is open 4.1. This is May 2024. So why start CDEvents? And because you had people like me and Emil a part of it. So why? So the main idea was getting traction from other players. We weren't really seeing that with Eiffel, so that's trying to start again. And the goal was to have native support in like Jenkins, Argo, and so on. So you get the out-of-box support as you see with Hotel, for example. It was seen as a platform to discuss event-driven systems without actually having a set protocol, so it's more neutral grounds. We thought it was more important that we get people discussing event-driven systems rather than people using Eiffel. We wanted to get the interest from the developers of other systems. When you're coming out as a telecom company, you're going to get a little bit of resistance of it, and especially if you go cloud native and say, "Well, we are so different." I don't really agree there, but that kind of resistance comes becoming it. So cloud is so different. Maybe they think, I don't know. We were hoping of getting a close relationship with Eiffel, and maybe, okay, we have Eiffel here, maybe we should use it, but that hasn't come, so it's a bit separate right now. And we have encountered other event protocols. For example, Linux Fedora, they have their own kind of like CI/CD event protocol. At least when we talked to them then, I don't know if they have changed. So there are others out there. Take a look a little bit at the CDEvents. We got some key concepts. In the bottom, they're using cloud events, which I mean, if CloudEvents was out there when Eiffel was created, we might have used it. We'll look into some details how that works. They have links, but there is two types of links. You can include them and you can have them externally. Reverse DNS is the naming standard there. It is a pretty hierarchical naming pattern, so it's kind of dev CDEvents and then the subject and the predicate and a version. And this with subject and predicate is something that will start at the beginning, trying to identify basically what is the subject and what is happening. So currently there isn't any sync between the markdown and the schemas. In Eiffel today, we actually have one file where we generate the markdown and the schemas from, but they don't have it. So if you take a look at the different events there, they have a couple of different categories. Which core events? They have source code events, they have CI, CD, testing, and operations. Within the core, they have a pipeline and task run, where a pipeline is just like our activity events with queued, where the task run is only started and finished. In source code, they have separate events for repositories, for branches, and then for changes, where they have changes. It's the same thing, we created, reviewed, updated them. So it's a little bit more event types basically there, and they have a little bit inside of branches and repositories, even though that we are discussing that one. In the CI world, they have build and artifact. Where the build is the same, basically queue started. The artifact, package signed, downloaded, deleted. So they have a little bit more there. In the CD space, they have the environment and service events, where the environment is created, modified, deleted. Service has a little bit on deployed, upgrade, roll back, and publish, and so on. Testing looks quite similar. Their test suite is, they also have queued, and then they have a called test output that published. And if I remember this correct, it's basically you run the test and then you do some analysis on it, and then you publish an output on it.
Well, that would be like a JXML, for example, or other types of output too.
Yeah, maybe. I don't have that on top of my head, unfortunately. But there is the people that wanted to introduce this, they were actually working on this test cube. So they have some reasoning around it, but I unfortunately don't remember the top of my head. In operations, they have both incident and tickets events. Whereas incident is kind of like, yeah, if it's a ticket reported, resolved, that is, we have a problem where a ticket is the incident will probably be creating tickets. So these are the events. And my feeling is that maybe Eiffel is a little bit more thought through. It, of course, it's older, but it's also been pondered a little bit more, and maybe easier to get through the logic. Whereas sometimes these ones are a little bit more like earlier in the stage and a little bit more prototype. That's my feeling. So comparing them, we've got in Eiffel got activity events. And the CDEvents then got 3 different ones for pipeline, tasks, and builds. And the artifacts, yeah, it's basically artifacts. And we've got test events in Eiffel, test case, and test suite, which is basically the same here. And we have the sort change events. They have the change events for that particular part. And then, of course, the the branch and repositories included as a data inside our source code, where they have separate ones. Issue is their ticket event, basically. These are the kind of similarities. Then if you look at differences, and there is for now nothing called composition in their world. So this composition idea we have flow context. We have a separate event for, which might or might not be a good one. We have had discussion about that one. It's somewhat included in the subject. The confidence level we are going to need to have. And then we have also the announcement event, which isn't there. CDEvents then, as I said before, they have this branch and repository. Something that we don't really have, or we have it as part of our data. They have this service. Of course, we have our artifact deployed events, which covered part of it, but it's not really a life cycle type event. This one is. They have the test output and the incident there. Any questions so far?
I'm just surprised that they appear to be, in a way, making the same mistake that was made for the source change events in Eiffel, and that it doesn't seem that they support various scenarios that can happen in repositories. You flip back a few slides. Yeah, you have a change, created, reviewed, merged, abandoned, updated. It's not obvious that you can deal with fast forward updates, so branches, for example.
Could be. I think this is the kind of the simple pipeline with you create a review, you have some reviews, do some changes, and then you merge it.
Yeah. But I mean, not everyone has that kind of workflow.
Yeah.
And it's especially true. I mean, that assumes you are using pull requests or other forms of code review. And if you're doing like mob programming or pair programming, you won't do that. You'll just merge straight to the branch, and you would still want to be able to trigger pipelines, workflows, whatever, based on that.
Yeah, but it's it's more a little bit probably a little bit more simplistic view, and as I said, it's a little bit more earlier on in discussion. So yeah, I can agree there.
Maybe it's possible to do with those events. I haven't dug into it in detail, but from reading the events, it doesn't seem to cover all the bases.
No, but it also could be that somebody haven't really thought of that precise problem. Yeah. So yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Could you talk more about the service subject? Because I know we talked about having service as a separate entity when we talked the discussions leading up to the artifact deployed, and for quite a while when we were talking about this at NASDAQ, we talked about defining a service, and this service is deployed, and this that, and then in the end it was like, screw this, let's just deploy artifacts. So I don't see any like service created or service defined or something like that. It's just service deployed. Is it what? Do you know more about those events? What they actually represent?
No, not on top of my head. Maybe that's a good point. But let's see if I am able to do this right now. But I don't know if they have. In Eiffel, we have the concept of defining things. We have that composition define and so on. And of course, you have some created events for repository brands and change, but you don't really define a service and have an event for definition of a service, if I'm not mistaken. So the kind of like concept definitions they don't have here. So that's probably why they only have deployed and not created. Does that make sense?
In a way, but still, in if they have creations only represent real world creations, but services are created in the real world.
Sure.
So I guess it means that sort of when you do a deployment, the first time you deploy a service in this event protocol, that sort of implicitly said that, hey, this service exists. But there doesn't appear to be an explicit, and in a way that makes sense. I mean, it's, yeah, okay. Please continue.
No, but
Magnus, isn't it is some sort of timeline there, isn't it? I mean, it's an artifact until it turns into a service or something along that line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could definitely look at it that way. And saying that a service is created without being deployed, that's not.
That isn't just an artifact.
Yeah, in a way it is. Yeah.
Maybe.
It depends if a service only becomes a service when it's actually executing, or if it turns into a service at some prior point in time.
But it also could be that the people are not. It's not being used that much. So these gotchas that we think are now, we have experience we have, might not be caught yet. There. I don't remember that discussion out of my head, but yeah, interesting one.
Emil has a comment.
Emil want to speak.
Yes.
So do you actually hear me now, or?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So yeah, I was part of CDEvents where this was talked about, but I wasn't really in the group that defined the service events themselves. But what I can remember, the people there, they were cloud native folks, and they talked about artifacts that were microservice Docker images then. And when something is deployed, they deploy as a Docker image and it becomes a service. And that's why also the upgrade and rollback and those things are there, because it's more relevant to a cloud native world doing just replacement of one. I mean, spinning up another artifact as a service is a more straightforward task there than having a standalone like a web service or something like that. And I think that's the argumentation behind it. And I don't know if anyone has like worked on these updates for long. So I don't think so. There are definitely a lot of things missing here for at least a non-cloud native deployment of services.
Thank you. Hope that got some more clarity there. Good. Going on.
A question on the composition.
Yes.
Is it that they don't see a need of it, or they haven't gotten that far yet, or we're using artifact events somehow to?
My view is that it might not be that much needed. I think they thought when we discussed it, if I remember correctly, that yeah, it could be probably useful. But I think it's especially when you're working hardware, software type of main using, that's when the composition comes in and it's really useful. I can't think of an example if you're just using Docker containers and you're in that world that you actually get that interested in compositions.
Thank you.
They're good questions. Naming. So they've got this pretty strict hierarchy. They have the CDEvents and then the subject as and so forth. And sorry if I scroll back, then these are the subjects and pipeline and so on. And the predicates then are the verbs, the actions that have been created and so on. So you get an environment created event basically. So here you have pipeline started, build, finished, and so on. And then they have the version of the event also in the name here. Take a look at the structure. We have two parts. One part is cloud event part. And also I should say I'm showing the closest match as we doing in Eiffel, which is the JSON version. But if you look into cloud events, you will find that you can send it in other formats than JSON. But I'm using that for display here. The first part here is the CDEvents parts, and then we have a CDEvent part inside the data here. Take a look at a full example. So firstly, you've got, as we have the CDEvents parts, you got type, you got ID, timestamp, and so on, and schemas and a specification of the data part. Timestamp in CDEvents is human readable, and also Eiffel with just digits. Then inside the data, we have a context, which I will translate to the meta part. There is a lot of things that are copied over from this part into the CDEvents part, a specific part, and that's also my suggestion when I've written a explanation of how you can use Eiffel on top on CDEvents, and that would be the same thing. We copy over stuff here. Then you have a subject, which I basically would say would correspond to data. And this kind is a pipeline run. And then you would have some kind of information about the pipeline. You do have an ID here. You also have a source. Can't remember right now if these are the same or not. In this example, it is. And then you also have custom data. So these are the different parts there. The context would probably be kind of like the same, where the subject would vary just as much. And then we also have links, and I'm not going to go into every aspect of it because I don't know if everyone is extremely interested in it, but some comments about it at least. In their world, links, that's relation between events. They've also got something called chain, which is kind of like end-to-end. See, I see the representation. Basically, this would be like a trace in Intel. That's what we have, and that's provided in events as a chain. For link handling, as I said, they have two versions. One is internal, and that is the kind of same way we have an Eiffel. A sender must know the link logic in order to link correctly. Then they also have the possibility to use external links, and that is you have another service who's doing the linking for you. If you want to read the thoughts about it and why, I would recommend to check out this pull request because it has the full details. But as I said, there are two different ways of linking. So the type of links you have a start link to mark the chain start. You have an end. You have a path. And you also have a relation that would add context and so on. And I would say if you go to take a look at start and end, that's maybe not relevant if you're using if you're including links inside your events in Eiffel. It might be more relevant if you have external services. You can actually say, okay, this is the start and this is the end. I know there's nothing going to happen more with this. And the path one there is basically a cause in Eiffel, whereas the relation would be basically the rest of the link types in Eiffel. Some examples, path from context and then event ID. If you have a relation, you have a kind and you have a free text, so there is no one defined in Eiffel. We have all of the links defined basically, but here it is free text. And a target then. And same thing, the type and then from. And you might be spotting directly, but here it is. There are different parsing logic. If you want to get ID, you would get from here. You would have target here and from here. So it's not the exact same as we have in Eiffel, where it's pretty easy to parse out the links. Cool example, change merge event. And now I've moved the cloud events parts for previously because I couldn't really fit everything inside. Same context. As I said, we have versions. This is the version of the event. Timestamp. And then in this case, I've added in a chain ID because we're linking. Yeah, if you have a change merge event, you probably have a repository with the ID and a link to it. Then if you go into a build started, same there, you would have the meta part, but then here you would have then this link that will relate back to the previous event that I showed before with the context ID here. And then in the subject part, you would probably have some build information, what type of build it is, and contact and IDs of the build. So this is a little bit of how they would look like. If we move out a little bit and take a look at the ecosystem and so on, there is a lot of like supporting functions. I can't really say how well and maintained these ones are, but they do have a Go, they have a Java, a Rust, for Python, and there is a Jenkins plugin. There has been working Tekton. This one is archived. They are working some webhooks to send CDEvents webhooks and carrots. There exists some C++, C#, and they're planning for Java script and .NET. If you take a look at the users, yes.
Yes, Garrett translator, does it translate from the stream events, or what is it translating?
Yes, I think it's listening to the stream events and using the webhook to send CDEvents. My memory might serve me wrong, but I think it was that was using stream events. Who are the users then? If you go to their homepage, you'll find, as we have Jenkins, we have TestCube. They're part of the test events. We also have CDEviz, and then they're naming Spinnaker and Tekton. I know there is support for Spinnaker. Not sure about the Tekton support there, but there are also discussions in other communities. There have been. I'm not sure how active those ones are right now. Users also outside, there is, if you go to the CDEvents, CD Foundation blog there, you'll find Fidelity Investment. They have a blog about their CD journey, and they're also talking, they're using CDEvents. You also, if you're going and reading further, you have SAS. It's a data company. They're also using CDEvents in their solution to some extent. And then I talked about the CDEviz. If you go to cdviz.dev, they're a company that sells some CI/CD solution, and they have now also implemented CDEvent support. So there is some companies out there using it. Take a look a little bit at Vitality. They have meetings each week, discuss the protocol updates and so on, as we have. If you take look at the 2025 major computer companies, it's Apple, the CDEvents Factor 4, and IBM. They are doing conference talks. This is mostly CDCon. And CDCon then is CDF's own hosted conference. You might wonder, okay, why is not Ericsson part of this? But since fall of 2024, we haven't really seen any reason to put some significant effort for this. If you want to get more information, check out their websites. Check out Slack channel if you want to get in, and mailing list also.
Emil comments here, I believe the Gerrit translator uses the webbook that featuring Gerrit webbook.
Okay. There's a webbook feature here. Yeah. Good. Yeah, so that's where you can find it. But check out the webpage. You probably doesn't want to do it. Any questions, comments?
Basic one, then it was in someone of you this, or I didn't follow there. What was the Ericsson's part in the?
We were hoping that we were getting involved and we're getting a big momentum, that we're getting more people involved and more tool providers that's doing it out of the box. Because currently with Eiffel is you need to implement a lot yourself. So it would be kind of cool if you created something big and everyone implemented it. So you would basically, get it out of the box. But it hasn't really gotten to that traction. So that, I guess, is why Ericsson is not really supporting it or working with Linnér. Or, of course, we are watching what's happening there. But if it would take off, yes, we would probably consider it. But current right now, I don't think we're going to be using it.
Read between the lines was like, this is a candidate for a competitor replacer. Or
At least you should be aware of that exists out there. So and there are some companies that are using it. So be it aware of looking outside, what's happening outside. If somebody would come to me and says, I want to start with something, I would probably point them to Eiffel. Since it's, for me, it feels more mature and a little bit more structured.
But part of the, I see this as an orientation, that like part of that is what could we not we what do they do better, more or less? What can be steal with pride? So, or is there something that could be like, whoa, the market is moving towards this and we don't have it? By we, I mean Eiffel. But what could be utilized and implemented so not more people join that? Okay. I don't know the question here, but I mean that now we are aware, but are they doing something that is better or more or less? That you are aware.
I guess the two takeaways from that one is, one of them is it's probably pretty hard trying to explain Eiffel, as we said, getting started with it. And that is also why we haven't been able to convince them, even though they've been there and talked about Eiffel. Then triggered. So that is one thing to think of. But when it comes to if they're doing something better, don't know. I would say that maybe watch Hotel more than CDEvents right now, because that community is a lot bigger and it's happening a lot more. So I would say that space is more to watch Hotel rather than CDEvents. Was that kind of like a
it's a bit, so in comparison, we should look to Hotel and see what they do better, and maybe.
Yeah, that would be my tip right now, because at least the muscle and the power there is a lot more, and that community is a lot bigger. So I guess that if Hotel comes in and gets needed support in a lot of tools, maybe this initiative is also maybe not ending, because of course they have, there are a couple of things that Total won't solve, but there might be less interest in these sort of things.
Well, there are a number of events that they have that we don't have.
Yeah, true.
So it would be, since they are, they have defined those events for reasons, and those reasons, if we think they are good reasons, it could be a good idea to add those events to Eiffel as well, if they, fit. But for example, the repository creation, deletion, I don't think any of us really need it. But if we think it's reasonable to have it, it should be pretty easy to define and include. And also we could definitely look at their services and environments, see is there something we could learn from this other way, things we can't express currently, we could refine our events with, or event types. But similar to what we talked about yesterday about in the community discussion, Eiffel has been shaped by the needs of the participants. So getting time for adding additional event types that we don't personally need could be difficult.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the one that I'm thinking right of is if I go back here, with the issues events. Incident, I mean. So they have the incident events. Maybe I should go back to the slide. They have tickets that we have issues, and then they have incidents. If something happening in the pipeline, that's one thing that we've been discussing a little bit. Maybe we can use announcement, but we weren't. Maybe not. So that one is one that I'm thinking also.
Emil comments, CDEvents probably have a better possibility to provide data for DORA metrics than what Eiffel does.
Yeah, might be. And that is with the incidents part here. Yeah, good comment.